so it's a little dark, but we're doing our best. Stay focused on the information that I give you rather than how ugly or pretty we are. We're doing our best, trust me. We're going to do a bicep curl on the preacher bench today, and you've probably been doing these a long time. They're a stock exercise. There's not much that can go wrong with it. It's a hinge joint. It bends and straightens, and it's a fusiform muscle, meaning it goes from one end to the other in straight lines. All the fibers run in straight lines. You'd think that everybody would do it right, but that just isn't the case. And you'll understand that in a second after I teach you something about the anatomy, how we're put together. So what I've drawn here is the humerus bone, which is set into the scapula, and it goes down to the lower arm bones, and I've only drawn one, and just kind of, there are two, and it rolls on itself, but we're gonna keep it simplified so that you understand. This is where the biceps hook on to the lower arm to move the hand, way up here. But where they start are up here above the shoulder joint. So they come up this way, and the bicep fibers come this way. The biceps kind of looks like this. What's important is that up here, no part of the biceps hooks on to the upper arm bone, the humerus. It's attached down here, and it's attached to 2 points on the scapula or your shoulder blade, but nothing gets hooked on to the humerus. Why that's important, you have to know that, because we're going to contract it from the bottom up like you always do, but we're also going to try to contract this top portion here. So Gary, we'll start with showing what a normal bicep curl looks like on this bench. What's important is we need to supinate completely. So you kind of get this meat of your tricep. If you leave it to the outside, you're going to have this kind of a motion, and this flexor muscle in your forearm can help out quite a bit. See that? Pull up, Gary. You can see that muscle wanting to help. So we gotta kind of get the meat of the triceps underneath and get this fully laid flat, completely supinated. What you'll do is you'll take the bicep, contract it, and you keep the wrist cocked this way. If you don't, what will happen is the weight will kind of fold over, and now it wants to actually help you keep the joint closed at the top. But this way, the weight's still hanging out here, and it still wants to pull you open. So this is no good. This is what we want. So normally what people will do is at the bottom, they'll kind of cheat and lean forward a little bit to take the stretch off. So of course what we're going to do, exactly opposite of that. At the bottom, we're going to pull the whole shoulder back. And this is going to put this muscle on stretch at the bottom. Now, as you come up, most people will want to lean back. This again closes the joint. What we're going to do is we're going to lean forward. You can lift up off the bench a little bit. We're going to lean forward at the top. So now the shoulder's way out in front, but look what happens to the bicep. It has to contract at that top position. So start again, Gary, all the way down. Everybody can contract from the bottom up, but what we want to do is we want to bring the shoulder, so from the bottom it hooks on down here and it contracts to the middle. That's what everybody's bicep does in any bicep curl. In this curl, we're going to also bring the top, which hook on kind of up in here, underneath here, and we're going to bring them to the middle too. So we got this coming to the middle and this coming to the middle, and we crush the bicep. Let me have you feel this, Gary, before we do this. Just sort of flex your bicep and give it a nice contraction. Now, let's take this and pull your arm behind you this way. Now feel how much more contraction that is? That's because we've shortened this distance between the shoulder and the center, right? And so if you want to feel this by yourself, just flex your bicep, and then tuck your hand behind your neck and feel that bicep really crush up. So that's sort of what we're trying to mimic here. Let's supinate completely. Let's get the stretch put on. All right, and now, so you're pulling back. Yep. Now begin the contraction, and then at some point also lift up and lean forward. Let's try a 10-pound weight here. Let's see what we can feel. Get this meat tucked under. Give it a good stretch. A good stretch. Contract, and at some point, lean into it. This is absolutely counterintuitive. You want to do exactly the opposite, to cheat. And most of the time you have. You've leaned forward at the bottom and back at the top. But we're going to do exactly opposite. And that is going to give us a full contraction of the bicep from the bottom to the center and from the top. Take your time this time, just real slow. You start at the bottom, and at some point you start to lift up and lean forward and finish at the top. There's definitely a two-stroke motion. There's the bottom part and the top part. You can smooth it out with practice so it feels like one thing. You get the shoulder because you lean forward at the end of the motion. If you forget to pull back, you don't get that full stretch, and that makes it easier. And you don't want to do easy things in the gym. You want to do hard things in the gym. If you're a guy that wants to do easy things in the gym, you need to go bowling, which is a great activity. But this is different. You're going to want to do this the hardest way possible. You will not be able to use the weights you think you can use. Why don't you take a rest here, Gary, and we'll talk it out. What did you feel there?
Yeah, the most difficult part is trying to get this back far enough, and you can feel the slack in the back of your tricep or whatever. But you know, once you've done it, once you take all the slack out,
you get that stretch.
Right.
So we're used to doing this joint for biceps. Everybody does that. Nobody's used to doing this joint for biceps, huh?
Right.
Try it again with the 10. Just do one, and don't think about this joint.
Okay.
It'll happen, right?
Right.
The bar will come up, if a barbell or dumbbell. Think about this joint. What are you doing with this? This moves back, gets a flex, and at some point it begins to, when it's hard, it moves forward. Now really lean over that. Oh man, that's a good contraction. Now lean back, fight it back. Yeah, nice. One more. So you're going to do the opposite of what your body wants to do to help itself. You're going to make it super, super hard. You lean back when the bar is away from you. You lean forward when the bar comes towards you. Take a rest. Once we start playing around with the shoulder joint on a preacher bench, and we start moving the shoulder joint, we want to make sure that we don't use it as a fulcrum, as a lever to get the work done. And people will do that. And so I want you to make sure that you didn't hear me say do this. Pull your shoulder down and back at the beginning to crank the weight up and use it like a lever. And then when it gets here, just lean forward and do almost nothing for bicep contraction. I didn't say that ever once in this. But if you let this get out of control and you don't keep it smooth and in control, what you'll end up doing is wanting to use more and more weight, and you'll get this shoulder down and back motion, which does what to the hand? Forgive my lack of motion. Don't get arthritis. You won't like it. This is not what I'm teaching, right? I'm teaching to lean back and then contract the muscle and then lean forward at the end. If you're not careful, you'll start putting more and more weight on. You'll start cheating more and more and more, and you'll get nothing out of this. And you'll say, J.M. Blakeman showed me this exercise, and I get nothing out of it. You have to do it right to get anything out of any exercise. So I just want to put that caveat out there. If I didn't make it clear before, there's a wrong and a right way to do everything, and what you want to do with this is, as you're doing this, and Gary asked me before, he said, when do I decide to start leaning forward? Here's a good answer to that. When you start to feel, as you fatigue and you're doing reps, and you start to feel what you want to do. Like when you want to pull back instead of leaning forward, that's when you should lean forward. Your body will, as it fatigues, it will want to do the easiest thing. And you'll know when you should be doing the opposite. Right? So you can kind of feel when you're leaning back and you want to stay back and you don't want to lean forward. You want to keep pulling back and leaning back. That's when you should start leaning forward. You can feel this yourself when to time your motion.